let's start with some audience interaction. So intuitive design. I'd like to get some ideas from people. What is the most intuitive design product? Raise your hand, shout it out. You've known it, you knew how to use it even before you picked it up. Come on. Toaster, very good. Anything else? Toaster? Come on, there's got to be Apple bigots in this room. iPad, yeah, there we go. Anything else? Bottle, very good. I like the bottle idea. Toasted. Nice, Mark, very nice. My mother, hey now. I'm sorry, pen? Very good, very good. All right, so I'd like to take it even back a step, make it even more fundamental. So I believe that intuitive design truly has the opportunity to change the world as we know it. And I'm going to give you 3 examples to try to prove this point. Let's see if I can do it. So first one, a UI that enables a species, right? So you guys are thinking what this is. There you go. All right, so first of all, I'd like to say when my wife saw this, she said, yeah, leave it up to a man to take credit for this innovation. So my son, when he was born, knew exactly what to do with this, right? So he basically has no muscle structure, has barely any consciousness, is freaking out because he just got born. He bit the doctor's hand, the doctor's freaking out, he's yelling, but he knew exactly how to use this. My point is simple. Massive complexity in the back end led to pure simplicity in the front end. So when a child gets born, there's increased oxytocin levels in the mother and the child. So when the child comes out, my son was genetically programmed to start smelling for his mother, and also smelling for specifically the breast, and then also ultimately how to nurse. So it's truly fascinating because he knew exactly what to do when he came out. By the time he hits 13, he'll be completely obsessed with this UI. And by the time he hits 45, he'll be reading books to figure out how to use it again. So now, I also joke with my wife that the closest thing that men ever come to having babies is launching products. It's roughly 9 months of pain and suffering in the development that leads to roughly 24 hours of even greater intense pain and suffering for launch, and that leads to like years of picking up after the mess because you just launched a crappy product. So if this was an example, yeah, so some of you got that. That tells me a lot about the type of products you build. All right, so if this is the example for women, then there's also an example for men. Now, if that one was to enable a species, this one is to enable a society. So one step down, I give credit to all the women in the room. So of course it's got to be the car. So now you guys are thinking, there's not much complexity here. True, but back when this was developed, it certainly was very complex. And there's 100 million Americans that are licensed to use this, including my nanny in Miami. It rhymes, yes. But she's 85 years old, driving a 2-ton Oldsmobile with this UI very successfully. And so pop quiz, you guys are saying, yeah, if you've ever driven Miami, the grandparents don't really drive cars, much less coast them down the hill. But so pop quiz, who has more accidents? Kids below the age of 19 or grandparents above the age of 75? Higher or lower, which one? Kids, that's right. 4 times per capita accident rate than the olders, which probably has to do with, fast forward to today, right? After 100 years of using the previous UI, what has happened most recently? Massive intelligence, massive CPU cycles, 40 generations of Moore's law has finally gotten us to a point where we've got the CPU cycles and the network connectivity to move that UI forward, basically eliminating the UI entirely. Getting from this complexity, which we would argue is pretty damn simple, to just telling the car where you want to go, and it worries about the rest. So now everyone can admit that this will change society as we know it. And again, the point is massive complexity in the back end yields pure simplicity on the front end. All right, last example, and there we go. All right, so how many people know what this is? All right, excellent. This also tells me a lot about you guys. How many people use your toes lying on the ground in front of this to change this channel? Yeah, there you go. Talk about, there we go. Now you guys are excited. The nipple didn't excite you, but this does. All right, so truly this is simplicity, right? So it is 6 channels, live television. It is pure simplicity. And while, again, from a technology complexity standpoint, it has programmed generations of people as to how to watch, how to spend 150 hours of television a month. That's what Americans do, roughly speaking. So now, many of you would say, yeah, but there's Netflix and Hulu, and the world has moved from channels to shows, and this UI is dead. That's not how people watch. All right, great. Love the argument. Let's talk a little bit more. So fast forward to that. Thank you. So how many people are Comcast customers? How many? Well, yeah, most. How many people? Keep your hands up. How many people are happy Comcast customers? Yeah, there you go. All right. So if you want to complain, my old boss's name is CTO Tony. His email is Tony _ No, I'm sorry. Just joking. Just joking. All right. So before we launch this latest and greatest UI, which is arguably the best UI in pay TV today, arguably the bar's low. I know you're trying to steal my thunder. Bar's low. So, but before we launched this, Comcast hit 20 billion VOD streams served. All right. That's it. 20 billion with a B. So that was with the really crappy blue guide, as we called it. That was in most of your homes right now. Yeah, a bunch of you are nodding. So when we launched this, we were thinking, if it was 20 billion before, the world is going to go VOD with this. Better navigation, cover arts, Apple TV-esque design, true navigation with search recommendations, even voice search, right? So now, for the first time after we launched it, we actually had the ability to determine how people were watching. In aggregate, we weren't looking at Mark Tamrez and how he's watching the product. I know who you are, Mark. But we could bucketize it from live to VOD to DVR. So the vast majority of watching, even on this guide, was still linear. Roughly low double digits of VOD, low double digits of DVR. Now that might not be how we all use this product, but this is how the vast majority of Americans use this product. So as much time and energy and money as we spent in innovating design and giving more content, more bells, more whistles, more search, more navigation, the reality is human beings had never evolved past the I'm changing the channels with my toes kind of in design. And before it was 6 channels of live content. Here, on average, people were watching about 12, maybe 18 channels. That was it. And the amazing thing is, if they entered the guide at a low channel, like 2, 3, 4, that's basically around the number of channels that they would stay. And if they entered in the 2000s, they'd stay around there. It was totally heat mapped. They were neighborhooding their viewing. So next slide, please. So if there's something that we learned, it is the dilemma of more. And the TV industry, and I would argue the consumer electronics industry in general, gets enamored with more. Just go to CES every year. It is the epicenter of more. More pixels. Take a look at the TV industry, right? We go from SD to HD to Ultra HD. This, a month ago or this month, there was 16K television, right? And we went from 2 dimensions to 3 dimensions, which was a total flop. I promise you, within the next 2 years, there's going to be 3D because we're going to add smell for the infants that are looking for increased oxytocin levels. But more is really easy, right? More is easy to develop. And the problem is we lose the customer in all of this. And I think this is what you were saying about the cars. Everyone's wanting, as Audi and Volvo and everyone else was talking about, hey, if we had 1 light in the little flip-down mirror, let's put 2 lights in next year because that's what no one really cares about that. That's giving ourselves something to talk about. Because more is not just easy for the engineers to build, more is easy for executives to talk about, because we can say, next year we're going to have 4x the pixels, twice the speed, 2 times the memory. The sound bites are easy. But the reality is, let's take a look at Apple, back up a step. So how in this world of more does Apple produce products that are just simple and intuitive? It's because they have a benevolent dictator that has the power and the will, and to be honest, the feeling that he had the duty to say no, to focus thousands and thousands of engineers on basically 6 products a year. And it's not coincidental that the company that arguably has some of the fewest product lines in the consumer electronics industry has the highest profits. Just take a look at what happened yesterday. So the challenge for us product development executives and designers is, how do we deal with this dichotomy of the world as we know it in consumer electronics is all about the next iterative product, but we want to get to truly innovative designs. So next slide, please. All right, no. So no is a very powerful word and very scary in big corporate America, because no makes no friends. And if you're in big corporate politics, you're trying to make as many friends as possible. No pisses people off. You don't like to say no to your peers when they come up with the next great bell and whistle to add into your product. You certainly don't want to say no to your boss, who happens to be named Tony. Don't do that. So, and no is difficult to say to your sales team who's saying, I need the next iterative product. but no focuses. No gives you the ability to say yes to the few core products that are really going to mean something to your customers. But no takes courage. I've never met a CEO in the wireless world. I spent 15 years there, and the media world. I've never met a CEO who didn't start off a great speech by saying, I want to be Apple, I want to be Steve Jobs. But rarely do they or we have the passion and the will to say no to all the clutter on the roadmaps, kill things off, so design and engineering can focus on the awesome products. So these are the thoughts that we had. Next slide, please. These are the next slides. These were the thoughts that we had when we started off Teletopia. How to bring TV back to the nipple. God help us if that's the soundbite that comes out of this speech. My PR team is going to love me on that one. So no set-top boxes, no 2-year contracts, no bells and whistles, just trying to make it as simple and intuitive as Americans want to watch TV. Now, things like that are scary comments for industries, right? A little revolution once in a time, that's a good thing, right? But a revolution needs friends, right? And you heard this from Paul. He put up a big slide of all the friends that he started to create. He started with a dream of one person, that he could change the world, 0.5% at a time. And a vision and a dream is very powerful, and it starts with a small team, but it eventually grows to larger and larger. But you need friends, and especially when you're trying to disrupt a large industry. Even if your business model is accretive to everyone, change is scary to the antibodies. So if I've got a request of all of you, it is to help me. We are in the TV industry. We are near to launch. We are talking to as many friends as possible to build that ecosystem, to build that friendship. So I'm not going to spam anyone. Send me an email. Stay in touch. Because the time is near for us to ask you for your friendship. And on that note, I'm going to do something that Joseph told me specifically not to do, but I don't deal well with no, which is a little bit ironic, I know. Which is what we found in Exonus is we had passion to change the world, to build awesome designs. And what we found in Exonus was a team that could share with that passion. And rarely do you find that in partners, because usually you're putting up your home and your child's college fund, but rarely do they do that. So I'd like to thank Joseph not just for a fantastic evening, but also being a fantastic partner in what we're doing with Teletopia. So let's give Joseph a big hand.